The notification popped up on Clara's phone, a news alert. Local man arrested in connection with missing person case. A grainy photo accompanied the headline, the man's face slightly blurred. Clara's breath hitched. She knew that face. It was Mark. She had met him on Tinder. He'd seemed normal, maybe a little intense, a bit too eager, but normal. They had met for coffee, quick, unremarkable. He talked a lot about his job, something vague in private security, and his passion for hiking. He had been insistent on knowing her schedule, her routines. At the time, she had brushed it off as awkward small talk. Now, remembering his probing questions sent a chill down her spine. Clara clicked on the article. The missing person was a woman around her age. The details were sparse, but the implication was clear. Foul play was suspected. The article mentioned that Mark had met the victim through a dating app. Her heart pounded. Hands trembling, she scrolled through her phone, searching for Mark's messages. "When are you free next?" he had asked. "I'd love to show you my favorite hiking trail." She had politely declined, saying she was busy. Now, those messages felt like a close call, a near miss. She recalled the way he had looked at her, how his gaze lingered just a little too long, the way he had asked about her apartment, if she lived alone, the way he had seemed to memorize every detail she had shared. A wave of nausea washed over her. She felt exposed, violated, even though nothing had physically happened. The thought that she could have been the one in that news article, the one whose picture was now being circulated, was terrifying. The next few days passed in a blur of exhaustion. Sleep barely came. Every sound, every shadow sent a jolt of fear through her. She checked her locks multiple times a night, peering through the blinds at the empty street. She deleted her dating apps. The mere thought of swiping now filled her with dread. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had been in danger, that she had unknowingly brushed against something truly sinister. She replayed the date in her mind, searching for clues, for signs she had missed. Then she remembered a strange comment Mark had made, something about knowing how to disappear. At the time, she had laughed it off as a bad joke. Now it felt like a chilling confession. She started researching Mark online, digging through social media, trying to find anything that would explain his actions. She found a few old profiles, mostly abandoned, but nothing that suggested a violent past. He seemed like an ordinary, unremarkable man. And that was the most unsettling part. He could have been anyone. Her neighbor, her coworker, the guy she saw at the grocery store. A face in the crowd, hiding a dark secret. The police contacted her, asking her to come in for an interview. They wanted to know everything about her date with Mark, every detail she could remember. She recounted the conversation, the questions he had asked, the way he had made her feel. The detective listened intently, his expression grim. He told her she was lucky, that she had likely avoided a dangerous situation. He also told her she was not the only one. Other women had come forward, sharing similar stories of unsettling encounters with Mark. Clara walked out of the police station, caught between relief and terror. The news coverage of Mark's arrest continued, the details of his crimes slowly emerging. He had been planning the kidnapping for weeks, meticulously gathering information about his victims. He had been using dating apps to find vulnerable women, preying on their trust. Clara watched the reports, her heart aching for the victim, for her family. She wondered what the woman's last moments had been like, if she had felt the same sense of unease Clara had felt. The experience changed Clara. She became more cautious, more vigilant. She learned to trust her instincts, to pay attention to the subtle cues that could signal danger. She realized that appearances could be deceiving, that even the most ordinary people could harbor dark secrets. She also learned the importance of community, of sharing her experiences, of supporting other women. She joined online forums for survivors of similar encounters, finding solace in the shared understanding and support. The fear never fully faded. It became a quiet hum in the background, a reminder of how fragile safety truly is. She had learned a harsh lesson about the darkness lurking in human nature, one she would never forget. She was changed forever, but she refused to let fear define her. I still remember the night I almost lost my best friend, not to an accident, not to some freak twist of fate, but to a woman we both used to trust. a woman whose love twisted into obsession, then into something far darker. Her name was Lisa. I met Lisa through my buddy, Eric. He'd been seeing her for a few months, and at first she seemed fine. Maybe a little clingy, but nothing out of the ordinary. She was pretty, smart, and had that quiet, intense personality that made her seem mysterious rather than dangerous. But as time went on, little things started piling up. The way she'd show up unannounced, the way she'd go through his phone, the way her eyes would darken when he mentioned other women, like a predator sizing up competition. Eric tried to brush it off. She just cares too much, he'd say. She'll chill out. But she didn't. The breaking point came when he tried to break up with her. She cried, screamed, threatened to kill herself. When that didn't work, she switched gears and started threatening him instead, calling in the middle of the night, leaving voicemails about how he'd ruined her life, how she wished she'd never met him, how he'd regret this. Then she went silent. For 2 months, nothing. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. It was like she had disappeared. Eric finally started to relax. We all did. Then came the murders. The first was a guy named Jake. He had dated Lisa before Eric, though none of us knew that at the time. They found him in his apartment, throat slashed, blood soaking his sheets. No forced entry, no sign of a struggle, just dead. The second was a girl named Rebecca. She had been seeing someone new, some poor guy who had no idea what was coming. They found her in a park, stabbed 14 times. 14. The police had no suspects at first, but something about it felt off. These weren't random killings, they were personal. And when Eric and I heard the names, a cold realization settled over us like a fog. Lisa had dated Jake. Lisa had known Rebecca. Then Lisa called Eric. At first, it was just missed calls. 1, 2, 3, then a dozen. Eric saw her name pop up on his screen and ignored it. He didn't even listen to the voicemails, just deleted them, assuming it was more of the same crazed ranting. But she kept calling. By the second day, she was using unknown numbers. Then blocked numbers. Then came the texts, paragraphs of unhinged, rambling messages. I told him not to respond. Just block her, I said. Don't engage. So he didn't. He shut off his phone for a while. And that might have saved his life, because Lisa was looking for him. The police caught up to her at a gas station just outside town. She had a knife, a burner phone, and a piece of paper with Eric's address scrawled on it. She had been driving around all night, calling him, hoping he'd answer, so she could figure out where to find him. If he had picked up, if he had given her even the smallest hint of his location, he would have been victim number 3. Lisa went down screaming. When the cops swarmed her, she fought like a cornered animal, kicking and biting, shrieking Eric's name like it was the only thing keeping her alive. They had to drag her away. The whole time, she kept wailing about how she loved him, how she had to fix things, how he had ruined everything. Eric never saw her again. She's in prison now, and we try not to talk about it, but sometimes late at night I wonder what would have happened if he had answered that phone, if his curiosity had gotten the better of him, if he had just wanted closure.